The call came at 9:47 p.m. I remember because I almost didn't answer it. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something in my chest tightened before I even picked up. When I answered, there was breathing on the other end.
Why?
Not crying, not speaking, just breathing, and then she said my name, soft, careful, like it might cut her mouth if she said it wrong. It took me 3 seconds to recognize her voice, 3 seconds to remember exactly who she was. Hi, this is Lauren. Lauren, my ex-husband's new wife. The woman he told me not to worry about. For a second I almost laughed because life has a sick sense of timing. I know this is weird, she said. I didn't know who else to call. That was the moment I realized something was wrong, very wrong, because Lauren wasn't the type to admit weakness. Not when she married a man who destroyed me to be with her. She inhaled sharply. And then she said his name. He's not who I thought he was. I closed my eyes when she said that, because neither was I 3 years ago. You have to understand something. This wasn't just some random ex. This was the man who swore loyalty in front of 200 guests. The man who held my hand when my father was dying. This was the man who told me I was paranoid while he was building a second life behind my back. Lauren didn't know I knew the full story. She thought she was calling the broken ex-wife. She had no idea she was calling the woman who rebuilt herself from the ashes he left and kept receipts. I need your help, she whispered. And that's when I realized this wasn't about closure. This was about survival. I could hear it in her voice now, fear, real fear. And for the first time since the divorce, I felt something shift. Not anger, not sadness, power. Because she wasn't calling to apologize. She was calling because the man she chose over me was unraveling. And she finally needed the one person who understood exactly who he was, me. I let the silence stretch long enough to make her nervous. Then I asked the only question that mattered. What did he do? And when she answered, I almost smiled. 3 years ago, I thought my marriage was going through a rough season. Not collapsing, just strained. He started working late, started guarding his phone like it held state secrets. When I asked about it, he'd sigh like I was exhausting him, like my intuition was an inconvenience.
What are you hiding from
You're
me?
imagining things, he'd say. You've been stressed. And that's how it starts. Not with cheating, with erosion. He didn't pull away all at once. He rewrote reality slowly enough that I questioned my own memory. The night I found out wasn't dramatic. There was no lipstick stain, no hotel receipt. It was an email one he forgot to log out of. I didn't even mean to look. But once I saw her name, Lauren, the messages weren't subtle. They weren't new, months, inside jokes, plans, and the worst part, he talked about me in those emails, not cruelly, just dismissively. Like I was a chapter he had already finished reading, like I didn't know the story was ending. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything, I copied everything, forwarded it to myself, saved screenshots, because shock fades but evidence lasts. The confrontation happened 2 days later. I wanted to watch his face. When I slid the pages across the table, he didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He looked relieved. I was going to tell you, he said. I just didn't want to hurt you. That's when I understood something important. This wasn't a mistake, it was a transition. He had already emotionally moved out. I was just the last to be notified. The divorce was fast, suspiciously fast. He didn't fight for the house, didn't argue about assets. At the time, I thought it was guilt. I was wrong. It wasn't guilt, it was planning. Lauren and him got married 8 months later. Small ceremony, private venue. I didn't attend, but I received pictures anyway. She looked radiant, victorious. Like she had won something, and maybe she thought she had. At the time, back in the present, her breathing on the phone became uneven. He's in trouble, she whispered. And that's when the pieces started clicking together, because the divorce had been too clean. Too easy. He hadn't just left me for love, he'd left me for leverage, and now the board was shifting again. He's being investigated, Lauren said, not panicked, controlled panic.
Serious?
For what?
Yes, you
I
can
asked. My voice didn't shake. There was a pause, long enough for her to decide how much truth I deserved. Financial misconduct, she finally said, with clients. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. You see, my ex-husband was many things, charming, calculated, ambitious, but patient? Never. He liked shortcuts, liked systems he could bend. What does that have to do with me? I asked. Another pause. Your name is still attached to one of the early accounts, she said, from before the divorce. There it was, the leverage. During the divorce, he had insisted on handling certain financial transitions himself. I had trusted the paperwork. And now that clean divorce made sense. He hadn't fought assets because he didn't want scrutiny, he wanted speed. They're auditing everything, Lauren continued. And if they trace it back, she didn't finish the sentence. I finished it for her. It traces back to me. Yes. The word came out barely audible, and that's when something inside me went very still because this wasn't accidental. He had insulated himself with me. You knew about his accounts, Lauren said carefully. You handled things with him before. No, I handled them for him. I was the organized one, the cautious one, the one who triple-checked numbers he had learned from me. And then he'd used that knowledge. We need you to say it was a misunderstanding, Lauren rushed. That you approved everything. There it was, not help, cover. If I publicly stated I had authorized early transactions, it would blur intent. Complicate timelines, possibly save him, and in return, we'll make sure you're protected, she added quickly. Protected from the mess he created. That's when I understood something profound. Lauren wasn't calling because she felt guilty. She was calling because she was scared that the man she married wasn't just unfaithful, he was reckless, and if he fell, she would fall with him. You don't owe him anything, she said softly, but maybe you could help me. That was clever. Shift the appeal, make it woman to woman. For a moment, I almost considered it, not for him, for her, because despite everything, she didn't look like a villain in my mind anymore. She looked like someone who had believed the wrong man. And then I remembered the emails, the way they talked about me. I remembered her laughing in messages about how dramatic I was, how I overreacted. She hadn't just married him, she'd participated, and now she wanted solidarity. My silence stretched again, long enough to make her breathe faster. You're the only one who can fix this, she whispered. No, I wasn't. I was the only one who could expose it, and for the first time in 3 years, I realized something. I wasn't the woman he discarded anymore. I was the variable he underestimated. I pulled the phone slightly away from my ear and calmly said, I'll think about it. After we hung up, I didn't cry, I didn't pace. I walked to the closet, reached for the box I hadn't opened in 2 years, divorce papers, financial records, printed emails, and the USB drive, the one he never knew about. When I plugged it into my laptop, I expected confirmation. I didn't expect escalation. Buried in the archived folders were transaction drafts, early templates, versions that never got sent, and attached to one of them a note. If this ever circles back, she'll take the fall. I read it twice, then a third time. He had planned this, not sloppily, not accidentally, deliberately. My name wasn't an oversight, it was insulation. And suddenly Lauren's panic made perfect sense, because if investigators dug deep enough, they would find this. The note wasn't addressed to anyone, just saved, like a contingency plan. And here's the thing about cold revenge, it doesn't rush. It waits. I didn't call Lauren back that night, I emailed an attorney instead. By morning, I had legal confirmation. If I voluntarily provided documentation now, I was protected, fully, and he wasn't. That afternoon, Lauren called again. This time, she sounded smaller. Have you thought about it? She asked. I thought about the gaslighting, the dismissal, the relief on his face when I found out. I thought about her messages, the jokes. The way they minimized me, and I thought about that sentence on the screen. She'll take the fall, Lauren exhaled shakily. We just need you to say it was joint decisions. No, you need me to lie. I won't do that, I said, silence. Heavy? You don't understand, she whispered. If he goes down, I finished. I wasn't cruel, I wasn't yelling, I was clear. You both made choices, I said quietly. I already lived with mine, another silence. But this one felt different. He said you'd help, she murmured. Of course he did. He still thought I loved him, that was his final mistake. I didn't hate him anymore, and when hate fades, so does loyalty. I'm sending the documents to the investigators, I said. You should prepare yourself. She started crying then, not dramatic, just defeated. I didn't know, she said. I believe her, but ignorance doesn't erase participation. 3 months later, he was formally charged, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. Lauren left him before sentencing. Public records are unforgiving. I wasn't subpoenaed. I wasn't implicated. I wasn't collateral damage. Because I kept receipts, and because when she called for help, I said no. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve documentation.